All right, hello. We're here at Malcolm X Library with Mr. Tambuzi, and we'd like to talk about the history of Black San Diego and history in motion when Malcolm X Library opened back in 1996.
Yes. First of all, my name is Robert Tambuzi, and I'm currently a co-convener along with Dr. John Warren of the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint of Black Men and Women United. It is a local effort to build a Black United Front here in San Diego. So I want to let that be known. I'm also Chairman Emeritus of Project New Village. Been there since the beginning, and now we're moving leaps and bounds ahead, holding the farmers market, two farmers markets, helping people deal with open space, urban agriculture, and fighting for food justice and food sovereignty. And our managing director, who I have the utmost respect for, indicated with Diane Moss, has been with me, and we've been working together since we met in college back in 1976. I'm also a member of the organization US. As a matter of fact, under the leadership of Dr. Maulana Karenga, who is the creator of the Nguzo Saba, and the African American holiday of Kwanzaa, which is celebrated by over 50 million Black people worldwide. He's also, as I said, the creator of the Nguzo Saba, which is the basis for Kwanzaa, the 7 principles of Black community development, Umoja, which is unity, Kujichagulia, which is self-determination, Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility, Ujima, which is cooperative economics, Nia, which is purpose, Kuumba, which is creativity, and Imani, faith. So I bring warm greetings on behalf of all of the constituents that I work with and the men and women whose shoulders I stand on. I wanted to start by saying I wanted to talk about Malcolm X because people know him, and right now Dr. Karenga is working on a massive opus magnus on Malcolm X. It's called, the title of the book is The Liberation Ethics of Malcolm X. And in our tradition, or in our organization, US, which has a philosophy called Kawida, which is developed by Dr. Karenga, Kawida meaning the best of African thought and practice in constant exchange with the world. We always asked ourselves, as a Kawida principle, to always ask ourselves, not only what did our people do, what did our ancestors, both big and small, what did they do, but what did they think? What was the motivation behind their actions and their deeds? And with Malcolm, he's most famously known as for 3 things: to wake up, clean up, and stand up. And we hear a lot of people now, so-called millennials, or people who are just coming new into the movement, talking about being woke. Well, they drew that from Malcolm, whether they knew it or not, because when he talked about waking up, well, first of all, you have to clean up. You have to get rid of those things that are deleterious to your growth and development, things that will act against you becoming the best that you can be, to help your family and your community, and to stand before heaven and God worthy. So you have to get rid of those things, chemicals, behaviors, and psychological addictions to things that are European, white, and detrimental to your health. So being woke is one piece, but you have to clean up first. And you have to admit that you're dirty. You have to admit that we have to struggle. In our organization, we always say that we're American by habit, but African by choice, which means you have to stand up every day and struggle against it. The white man and the white woman is everywhere. You cut the TV on, they there. You look at the money, they there. You look at the cornflake box. You look everywhere, they're there. So you got to struggle against that and find and sift through all of this nonsense that they put out, the dominant society puts out, and find yourself. And it's a constant ongoing thing. So we're American by habit, but we're African by choice. We have to choose to be African every day, and that means to struggle. So when Malcolm talked about cleaning up, it's getting rid of all these things. And his life becomes a personal testimony to this, because we are taught about Detroit Red and all the things he did, but that ain't Malcolm. That was Malcolm coming into himself. It's when he meets the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and comes in contact with the Nation of Islam and becomes a committed Muslim that he starts to change for the affirmative, for the best. And in his own description of himself pre-Islam, he said, I was just trapped in the mud of this society, the mud and filth of this society. I was so low, I was walking on my own coffin. Direct quote. And he stood and rose up against all of that in just 13 short years, relatively short years. So first, he said we had to clean up. Then we have to stand up. That's why I want to commend Kim and the members of the Malcolm X committee for keeping his tradition and his work alive, because you're standing up. Because when people say, who is Malcolm, and you know what he stood for, it emboldens you, men and women, girls and boys, to know that this man struggled against all odds and martyred himself at 39. And I say martyred, not assassinated, because assassinated shouldn't mean what somebody did to you. Martyr is when you make a self-conscious choice to give your life to the struggle. When I think of it, I'm so humble, I'm getting goosebumps because I want to be like that. Malcolm said in his autobiography that if read correctly and objectively, he would want his life to be a testimony of some social value. Now, this is when he's under threat. This is when his house is being bombed, and he's denied entrance into countries, and his passport is invalidated. He's still talking about that. And he didn't just talk about black people, he talked about the world African community. He was a member of was able to sit in the UN and speak on our behalf, make a statement on our behalf. He was recognized around the world as the best of us. And when I see Davis eulogize him when he made his transition to eternity, he said, when we respect Malcolm and when we stand for Malcolm, we're standing for the best in ourselves. He was our shining prince, our black manhood. And I'm saying black manhood because that's another thing what you expect me to say as a black man. But to extol the positive virtues of blackness and being a man. And being a man, not no masculine toxicity or all those other kind of things that are coming out now, but being a man who protects and provides for his family and his community, his people, who provides for them, who is mentally aware, who is committed to cultural leadership and understanding the best of our culture and anything that we want to ask the world about problems, from brotherhood to parenting to lovemaking to being in love. We can find it in our history. You don't have to go to some alien history. As the Honorable Marcus Garvey said, our history is too important to turn it over to alien hands. So again, I want to commend the committee for taking this initiative and sustaining it for 4 years. And this is just a side note, a personal note. When you build an institution, once it gets to its 10th year, then you know it's rock solid. So don't give up. You got 6 more to go. And remember, Malcolm and all the great ones are looking at us. And they're not so great, whose name never made the history books, who didn't have Swahili names or African clothes, but who taught us what was right, what was good, to tell the truth, not to steal, to be men and women of character everywhere we went, to work hard, and to believe in and support a meritocracy. And then finally, after you wake up, clean up, you get woke, you got to stand up, right? You got to be woke all the time, and you got to stay clean all the time. And part of that, and that's why I have a lot of respect for Sister Kim. I've not known her as deeply as I hope to know her, but I've never heard her say anything disparaging about black people. But you hear a lot of people, and it's so unconscious it becomes normal. Black people don't do this, black people don't do that. It's usually the negative. It's not the affirmative. So if we can just stop for 1 month, maybe during Malcolm's month, let's try that. Don't say nothing. You find yourself saying something negative about black people, check yourself. Talk about what's affirmative. Talk about how our parents were able to raise us constantly. You know, we've been in this country, some people say 461 years. And for 461 years, 24/7, white supremacy, white power, and white privilege has been gnawing at us. Institutionally, you name it, Jim Crowism, the Holocaust of African enslavement, this prison industrial complex, this new way to kill us through our health and putting negative things in our community, giving us poor education. And we still standing in spite of that. We still got presidents and astronauts and astrophysicists and meteorologists. How can you not be empowered by it and be uplifted knowing that that's so? But you have to study, and that's part of cleaning up. So, in 1992, I was working for then Deputy Mayor George Stevens, and made it good he left last forever. And I was his special assistant for community affairs. And one of the things that we wanted to do, in addition to policies and voting on things downtown, making sure garbage got picked up, is we wanted to build institutions that last. And so we have 4 I can point to. the Black Contractors Association under the direction of Abdul Rahim Hamid. It's located on 61st and Imperial. The George Stevens Senior Center, that's located at 65th and Skyline Drive. The Tubman Chavez Center, that's located on the corner of Euclid and Market. And where we are now, the Malcolm X Library and Performing Arts Center. We wanted to create an educational hub and tie in with the work that's being done over the scientific and technological work that's being done over at the Elementary Institute of Science. So we saw this as how important it was. And Reverend Stevens understood that, we understood it, the staff understood it, the men and women who voted us into the office understood it, so we created this library. We got the funding for it, and it's the only library, to my knowledge, that's named after Malcolm X, Minister Malcolm X, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. And when we dedicated the building, we were able to bless and bring out Dr. Betty Shabazz, his wife, to give her blessings and support and consent for this project. And as in the tradition of Africa, the best of African thought and practice, she was pleased. And if she was pleased, I know he was pleased. His daughters were pleased, and God was pleased, and here we have this institution. Now, there were people who didn't want this to be named Malcolm X. I'm not going to dwell on that, just to let you know it wasn't done smoothly. And it was done by white people and white people who were inspired. I mean, people who weren't white that were inspired by this stuff. And what we decided we would do in order to name the library was to have a essay contest. And so, from 8th to 12th grade in the surrounding middle and high schools in the southeastern area, and I say southeastern, not southeast, the southeastern area, because we buried southeast in 1974, because it was a place, it wasn't a geographical designation, it was a place that was where blacks and Latinos lived bad, where bad things were happening. And I know I'm digressing, but there's so much to say, and you'll edit this as you see fit. But anyway, back to so we brought her here, and we had an essay contest, and the person who won the essay contest, the actual, so the history is straight, the actual essay that won was to name the Library and Performing Arts Center after Mr. President Emeritus Nelson Mandela. But the city of San Diego had a prohibition against naming institutions, public institutions, after people who were still living. So the next person became Malcolm X. And so now we have it. Now we have a Friends of the Malcolm X Library. Now it's just become the new norm to talk about Harriet Tubman and our Latino brothers and sisters who work with us, who circle. So we have the Cesar Estrada Chavez Harriet Tubman Center, the Malcolm X Center. And we named it after George Stevens because he was a man of consequence, and I miss him often, because we need men and women. And you don't have to be old. You can be whoever you want to be. And you can be righteous, not because of your title, but because, as we taught, and it's been taught since the 60s, you become righteous you become royal because of your righteousness. Malcolm said we have to walk each day in the way of righteousness. And it's hard to do that. There's an ancient Egyptian text, and I'm paraphrasing, sacred text that comes out of the Usia, which was retranslated by Dr. Karenga. It says we have to be a ladder for people who are trapped in the pit of despair, to carry them over to the river of righteousness without becoming like them. And it's a difficult thing. But who said this is going to be a tea party? We're talking about a revolution, and the revolution cannot succeed unless we win the hearts and minds of our people. And you know that's a battle. You can see your children when they're young, they love you, they're affectionate, they want to learn, they're inspired by your example, they respond to your appropriate discipline and love and cherishing. But after a while, as they start picking up these devilish thoughts from the outside dominant society, they bring this stuff into the house, and you have to constantly struggle with it. And we can't raise our children by ourselves. We can have them by ourselves. They're our primary, as biological parents, they're our primary responsibility. But we have, in the best of our African tradition, we are social parents. That's why when I was growing up in this town, in southeastern San Diego, on 36 in National, in Goodyear, anybody could discipline you. That was right. And you didn't want to embarrass your parents. The teachers that taught me went to the same church and to the same grocery store, and we washed the same clothes. So that kind of thing, I'm glad I can keep talking about it because I don't know if it's going to come back again. Because after this, the Black Freedom Movement, which had two components to it, the civil rights part and then the Black Power part, we created space for people to move wherever they want. And unfortunately, in my humble opinion, too many people left their community. They left the place where generations of them had been raised and moved out to hinterland, creating a brain and resource drain. It's been said by a lot of economists that the black middle class is probably the first middle class in human history to move away from its own market. So when you see stores and shops and other businesses, as we say in Tambuzi Saba under cooperative economics, that have other people's names on them, it's not because the people came here and robbed us or there was some trick by the government. Many of these black people sold their heritage. And when you sell your heritage, you can't say that they was taken over. This ties in with the current, what they call justification of displacement, where you have 4 and 5 generations just gone. Well, you got to be strong. And so tell the people this. You don't have to, everybody's not going to be Malcolm. You know that. Everybody's not going to be Harriet Tubman, this fire prophet of a woman, this soldier, this multidimensional angel who stomped through it at 5 foot tall and 90 pounds and defied armies. Both public armies and closed armies like the KKK. We can't, we might not be that. As Dr. King said, everybody's not going to come up with a new cure for cancer or whatever. But we can all serve. We can be great through our service. So serve people. And serving involves sacrifice. And sometimes, now, we can't talk capitalism to them. Well, I'm going to serve, but I want to return it on my investment. What are you getting for this? I know how much you're getting paid. The Malcolm X Committee in this 4th annual presentation. I know how much y'all getting paid. Nothing. Because you do it. But the payment is deeper than money. It's a sense of satisfaction and achievement. And to put things in and institutions in place that'll live beyond you, that'll carry your name. I can go on, but you might want to ask me something else.
Yes, thank you. We wanted to know your thoughts for Black San Diego in terms of carrying the legacy forward. You know, in addition to having the 4th annual program where we come together once a year, what are some tools that we can put in place, you know, throughout the year that we can remember how important this movement, you know, to carry his legacy is?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say this. It's been said that all politics are local, but we have a rural African community. So probably, I think I'll be on point. You can arrest me if I'm wrong, Kim. I think I'm on point when I say this. Whatever challenges that we have in San Diego, we got in the South Sudan, we have in Soweto, we have in London, we have wherever black people are gathered, we got the same thing. So the principles are the same. Building the community. First of all, our organization, us, we say there's 4 things that have sustained us and separates us from the other groups that started out with us. First of all is our work. And the work is not just manual work, but it's also mental and intellectual work. To go and become cultural archaeologists, if you will, and sifting through all the lies that have been told and all the good things and the beautiful things that we've developed and never gotten credit for that other people have taken, and finding out what those are. And something as simple as going to your child's school and reading. Just read about Malcolm. Read the passages, because they still read about Dick and Jane, or a colored Dick and Jane. What about Malcolm and Harriet and Sojourner Truth? And Maulana Karenga, for that matter, Malcolm, to read, to know. But in order to teach, we have to know. So the first thing we have to do is study. We can't stress that enough. Dr. Karenga said in the 60s, and we stand by this, show me a true nationalist and I'll show you someone who studies. You can't win if you don't study. And I mean study Africa, African thought and practice in constant exchange with the world. You study the other things too. That's imposed on you. But study these other things. And look for alternatives that are African to your lifestyle choices. Right? I just think that that's very important. I think also that find groups, and that's what this technology should be used for. We're not talking about where you ate or that you're working out at plan thing or using some affirmation that's poorly selected from a sacred text to make it look like. But to find other people who are like-minded. We'd be surprised how many people around here are like-minded. But so that's why we want to build a Black United Front, to bring in all people. Not to stop them from doing what they're doing, but to enhance what they're doing. If you work down in the DA's office and you're a Black person, you know you isolated. And as Booker T. Washington said, feeling like a fly in a bowl of milk. So you need to get cleaned off from that. Come and find out and get reinforced by your brothers and sisters. If you're a school teacher and you're getting slapped around, you can't do anything. Find other like-minded people. They on TV all the time protesting. There's always something to go against. Join something. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said that one of the most sacred things in the universe is organization. And he used the universe as an example. Just think about this. How does the sun know not to come too close? How does the river know not to spill over? Look at our bodies. If we had to count how many times we're supposed to blink each day, most of us would be blind. So this organization thing is very important. And because we have so many different interests and so many different issues affecting us, find something that you like to do and join with other people. And if you don't like what they're doing, start your own organization. Because any attack against our oppressor that helps us towards full human flourishing and community development should be supported. So that's what we do. And those of y'all that are already doing it, those of us that are already got to do more. It just seems like when you get older, you're supposed to do less, and you're supposed to do more. You know why? Because you got more to do. I get cut off a lot when I talk, as you probably can tell, because people think, well, let the other people talk. Well, do. But when you only got 3 things to say, and you say it in 30 different ways, the concepts haven't changed. You can't be involved in a movement or be an activist and advocate for your people for 50 years and live through this and only got a 2-page resume. I mean, not me, not the people I work with. And I think it's more important because one of the things that we pick up unnecessarily, and I think wrongly from the dominant society, is we usually wait till people are dead to honor them. Whether they're safely in the coffin or gone wherever they're, or the crypt, or the urn, making their transition to eternity. Then all of a sudden we recognize that. Well, I think it's our responsibility to recognize our brothers and sisters that are doing the yeoman's and yeowoman's work, who are acting like Zulus in the midst of all this oppression right now, to learn from them. If anybody would listen to this, that is listening to this, I would humbly suggest if you still have grandmothers, grandfathers, aunties, adopted aunties, I'm telling you, we extended family. We got people that don't never, no biological connection, but because of the love and shared values that one has, and this mutual support and respect for each other, to go talk to them and take one of these machines that you fantasize about and look into all the time and cut it on, let them talk. You'd be surprised how much they know and how that'll lift them up, because they'll be remembering that they did something. Because this society is designed to beat us down, not to lift us up. And if we don't do our own internal lifting, we're going to collapse. And I know we're not, because remember, this year, of Malcolm's birthday, or what we say is Kuzaliwa, his rebirth, is 6,218 years ago that the first African civilization in Egypt was started, the first city. Now, compare that with 2019. We got 3 times the history that an achievement that these people got under some of the most severe situations. You telling me we ain't got nothing to say? You think that Me Too started when the sisters started, and now the white girls want to take it over, like they do everything and muddy the waters. I'm getting loud in the library, I'm sorry. But that's where you're supposed to insert a laugh or something like that, a little levity. But those are some of the things that we can do. And like I said, I've been taught in our organization, us and by Dr. Karing and the philosophy he created, Kawida, that there are 7 criteria for a culture. The first It's an appreciation for our spirituality. And so if you're a Christian and you believe in Christian values, turning the other cheek, being considerate, doing unto others as you would want them to do to you, then do that. But don't go out and do it to strangers who don't care about you. Start at home and spread abroad. Whatever your spirituality, find out what those core principles are and try to live them and apply them in your daily life with the people that you love and that are around you, family, friends, etc., colleagues. Second is history. Malcolm said, out of all of our studies, Malcolm X said this, not Tambuzi. I'm just hopefully smart enough to repeat it accurately, that of all of our studies, history is best prepared to reward our research. Because in history, we'll find solutions to current problems. So let's study our history. And when I say our history, we made an argument in the 60s, and that's part of how I came into the movement. If there was no black studies, there ain't gonna be no studies, because how you gonna leave out the founders of humanity and their contribution to the world's development and flourishing? Mm-hmm. How you gonna leave us out and call that an education? Mm-hmm. So we did that. We took over the schools and said, if there's still some black study, then other subsequent groups followed behind us, Latinos, Chicanos, etc., women. So history. The second or third aspect of culture is our social organization. How do we do families? Black people always have done family. So you can't exclude people, right? You got to include people. But there has to be a value system that we mutually agree on. And if the value system is the Guzo Saba, they're indestructible. They've already been it's been vetted the last 53 years by over 50 million people. And if you don't believe it, for those that attend, just go Google Umoja and see how many names and things that come up. After school programs, drug treatment programs, literacy programs. It's just, these values are indestructible. They're indomitable. But if you want some other Christianity, if you are Buddhist, the Eightfold Path of Buddha, but whatever those values are, follow them and apply them in the modern era under these circumstances. So the social organizations deal with family. How do men and women relate to each other? How do we train and teach and rear our children? Do we indulge them because we want them to like us and be partners, and friends, or do we cherish them and challenge them at the same time, and when it's appropriate? How do we treat our women? We see outbreaks of people putting hands on their women, and women are doing that more and more dominion. So what would you expect in a society where violence is his middle name? H. Rap Brown said, America in violence is just as American as apple pie. So where did we learn these things from? And we can't, as Dr. King has taught us for 53 years, we can't let our oppressor be our teacher. We can't follow his and her example and that come out right. So leave your hands off people. Find different ways to do it. If you're having problems in your relationship, go find other people like Kim and your husband. Tambuzi and Amnesia. Dr. Warren and his wife. There's a lot of couples that are going out there. Find out how do they stay together 10, 20, 30 years, do the same stuff everybody else is going to do. What makes us special, quote unquote. And I think that in addition to doing things like for Malcolm, we need to use your influence, Kim, and your other colleagues, to do the forums and open forums and discussions. We need to talk to each other. Not in no psychological Dr. Phil way, but just talk to each other, interact, learn how to do that again. It's missing from the system. Well, I'm still on family. So the social thing, how do we raise our children? How do we relate to the elderly and the disabled? These are all part of the social organization or a black psychologist, black sociology, I'm sorry. Then we have to, after you do family, we got to look at our political organization. Look at this. We're electing people because we like them, because they were homeboys or homegirls. But what about qualifications? We need statespersons, not politicians. Men and women who are going to uphold, whose leadership is going to be clear and direct, and is going to benefit people, especially the most vulnerable among us. In America, the people with money get their interests taken care of. Who speaks for the voiceless? Those are the kind of politicians, statespersons that we need to be cultivating in terms of another kind of discussion about that. And we need to know what politics means. Politics is, in its raw form, is just the art and science of gaining, maintaining, and using power. But in its most ethical sense, we're taught, it is giving people their due, which we call justice. You interacting with people, and before you can get something out, your proposal, well, what's in it for me? That's not right there. You know, it ain't going nowhere. How do we mutually benefit from? How do we mutually support each other? How do we mutually respect each other? And most importantly, how do we take mutual responsibility for success and/or failure? Then after you get to economic organizations, I can go on and on about this, but I won't. All I'll say is, in the civil rights movement, we